Mr. Koi, the Form 4s. Now, I've observed something with the Form 3s, and I'd like the Form 4s to adapt it too. I want everyone to at least be writing everything that, not everything, actually be summarizing what you can hear. Because remember, this is literature. The more you listen, the more you don't write, you just listen, it eventually becomes a lullaby. And some of you might end up slipping off. Anyway, I sent a few essay questions to all of you. I have not had any feedback. I'm waiting for feedback. But today I'm going to challenge you at the end of the lesson. I'll give you an email, and you'll write for me a summary of movement one, and you'll send it to my email as your assignment. Okay? Now, having said that, I believe the Pearl is one book that has had most of you confused. And so, something that I've never done, today we'll be discussing the prologue of the story. And I hope it is going to give you an insight of exactly what, inheritance. Inheritance is all about, not the Pearl. So sorry for that. Anyway, uh, a prologue, for those who are writing, is a section that prepares a reader for the story. A prologue, Prologue, is a section that prepares a reader for the story. Something very small. It does not tell you the entire thing or the entire story, but it gives you an insight. It prepares you as a reader for the story. So in Inheritance, we have a prologue, and the prologue is quite deep, quite touching, and just like a summary, or let's say a synopsis that has an analysis. In a prologue, they give you the story, then they give you the themes, then they give you the styles that are in that prologue. Okay, so in its own right, it's not written as a play just because it's a play itself. It's written in prose form. It has paragraphs and it has vocabulary, which are normally written in bold font that is black in color. So we have the prologue of the inheritance, the first point. It opens in Governor Don Mackay's mansion. It opens in Governor Don Mackay's mansion, which is described as lavish. So that's a point. It's lavish and one that rents the air of power and authority. It rents, RENTS, rents the air of power and authority. Now, I remember the first time we saw Governor Mackay's mansion. Yeah, it was quite intriguing to all of us because it showed how wealthy he is. Okay, in the setting, and we have the second point. We realize that the governor is angry. That's the second point. The first one is Governor Mackay's mansion. The second one, we depict his feelings and emotions. We realize that the governor is angry. And why is he angry? He is angry at the natives' incompetence, yeah, especially because of attendant one and attendant two, who seem to be getting everything he say wrongly. Okay, so the Governor Don Mackay, is angry at the natives' incompetence. That's the second point. Then I explain it. How does he feel? He feels that the whip should not have been abolished as it was effective. Mhm. Now, the second point, the governor is angry and the natives' incompetence. He feels that the whip should not have been abolished. Now, I'm going to try and explain this one. It is in page 3 to 4 for those who have the novel with you. Now, when the white settlers, when time was almost up for them, there was so much pressure, especially from America, pressurizing the queen. And it is still the same queen who is the Queen of England until today, Queen Elizabeth II. Okay? I believe back then she was in her 40s or 20s, 20, 30s, 40s. Yeah, she was very young. Today she's 90 something years old. Okay? So The Americans were, it is when America was going through the Great Depression, and most Americans were trying to advocate, and this is where we find Martin Luther King and the rest. Yeah, they were trying to stop slavery. Okay, and so many people had lost their jobs, and they didn't want slavery to be there. So because Britain was under pressure, it had to stop the beating up of the countries they had colonized, the people. And so the whip had been abolished. But again, governor has specific feelings. He feels so bad that somebody is seated in Britain has the let's say has what do you say? Has the energy. I'm going to use that word to write him a letter and tell him, you know what, from now henceforth, you're not going to be using the whip. So the governor is not happy, and so he vents out his anger to the attendant. He also vents out his anger to Bishop Manager, okay, who was his friend, okay. So the second point is that the governor is angry and the natives incompetence. Then we have the third point. I've listed them in points so that today you can get them properly, okay? The natives, that is around page 8, have rioted against the white settlers. The natives have rioted against the white settlers. That is the third point. The natives have rioted against the white settlers. What do we get from that? The natives were going to as far as raping their women, beating men up, okay, beating up children, and they didn't care. Why? Because this is the same thing that the white settlers had done to their great grandfathers or their grandfathers, and they were not happy. They even destroyed their properties, and so the governor is worried. This is not what we agreed with the king when we gave him the authority to become the king of this land. And remember, King Kutula the 15th was not put there in the leadership chair by the white man, Don McKay. Remember, this was his birthright, hence the title inheritance. He had inherited his birthright as the king of the land. So it's a bit ironical when Governor McKay feels that he owes him an explanation why the natives were attacking his people. And so the king comes, that is in the prologue. The king comes and visits the governor. But remember, because we Africans, again, not just we, but back then, they were not as civilized, they were not learned, okay? They just followed orders as they were, okay? So what happens? The attendant had been told by Governor Don McKay he should not be disturbed at all. And so he went to have tea with the bishop manager. So the attendant was told, okay, don't disturb us. And that is exactly what he did. So when Princess Sangoi and her father, adopted father, King Kutula the 15 came, what happened? The attendant told them they had to wait for the governor. And so when the governor realized that the king had already come and he had been waiting for around 1 hour, he was again furious. Okay, again the anger continues being manifested in from him, and so he says, why would the whip go away? It is only the whip that would have made these people, okay, use their brains, okay? But again, remember, this attendant was only following orders. So what happens? The king is ushered by the attendant, and the attendant makes the king even more furious by introducing the king as the king of the land. Yes, the highest, the what? Chosen by the stars and so forth, from what I remember. Okay, stars from the stars and heaven. Okay, his introduction again highlights how the natives were very much supportive of their African leaders. Okay, so the fourth point that introduces us to the fourth point, as they are discussing, that is Governor McKay and Bishop Manager. Bishop Manager, that is the fourth point, foreshadows, that is a stylistic device, foreshadows and gives the governor an insight. Bishop manager foreshadows and gives the governor an insight on exactly how natives would never be as sophisticated and civilized. So, how do we shorten it? Bishop manager foreshadows and gives the governor an insight on exactly how natives would never be civilized. Natives would never be civilized. What do they mean by that? Now, um, these natives, remember, uh, were not as, this was not from them. Yeah, education, modernization, industrialization. This was not part of Africa. It was all brought to us. So he says this: the technology is ours. This is Bishop Manager trying to discuss it with the governor, Governor Mackay. Okay, this technology is ours. Education is ours. We are going to be the rulers, whether we are here or not. Why? Because these natives, including even today, they will always be copycats. Why did I say it is foreshadowing? Because this is exactly what is happening, not just back then, but also right now. Okay, we copy everything these white people do. Nobody has that sense of originality to behave the same way we were or to maintain our culture, apart from, let's say, the Maasai community and a few more communities. Okay. Now we have the fifth point. The attendant ushers the king. That is the fifth point. I'd already discussed it. The attendant ushers the king and refers to him as the son of the king from the stars and heaven. Around page 6, that is where you find it. The attendant ushers the king and refers to him as the son of the king from the stars, and heaven. That is in page 6. Okay. Now, when the attendant actually ushers in the king that way, the governor, remember, he's already angry. Yeah, becomes very perplexed and astonished at how, even if this king does nothing for them, they will always be loyal to their own. Okay, and that does not happen even in European countries. You've seen black people being chosen in government positions, Asians finding their way up in European countries in government positions. Why? Because they look at what you can give them. Will you work? Okay? They don't look at, he's from my tribe, he's my father's brother's cousin, and so forth. You see? And so he's perplexed. And this is what the governor says. He cannot understand the infernal allegiance, okay, that natives have in their leaders. And I believe white people will never understand Africans when it comes to the leaders we choose. Because they look at a leader and they say, this one will not give them anything. But by the end of the day, that's the same person who will be chosen by African communities because of our cultures. And that is why culture will never be mixed up with westernization. The sixth point, the governor, that is the sixth point, the governor registers his disappointment on the king's silence on the escalating violence. You can even shorten them. The governor registers his disappointment on the king's silence on the escalating violence. What is happening? The governor has that unwritten agreement with the king that he is supposed to make sure that his people are safe and that they continue living in the land of Kutula. However, what happens? The king, that is number 7, the king, or the king makes it known that he is aware of the uprising. The king makes it known that he is aware of the uprising and fully supports it. And fully supports it. Now, this one again really surprises Don Mackay because he does not expect the king to say it bluntly in front of him. The king uh-huh, is aware of the uprising and fully supports it. What happens? The eighth point. The king tells, the king gives a proverb. And this is where now the proverbs begin. And when you're looking at this story, I want you to know that this is probably going to come in your exam. A proverb will be brought. The very many one of the very many proverbs that were actually used by King Kutula the 15th, and you're going to be asked to discuss them, bring out their inner meaning on the outer meaning, and how they have been brought forth or brought out in the novel on the play. Okay. So the king gives a proverb. The chameleon told the hare, "Make your step, I make mine." The chameleon told the hare, "Make your step, I make mine." Okay. Now, what does that tell you? Okay, it angers the governor because, for one, he cannot even understand it. Yeah, yet he called himself civilized. Yeah, he does not even understand this one. But we can try and decipher it. What was the king trying to say? The king was saying was likening the chameleon to the white settlers. Okay, the chameleon told the hare, who is the hare? The natives, harmless. Okay, so pure, so delicious. They can even be eaten. Yeah, but again, make your step, I make mine. Okay, so the chameleon has the ability to change colors. Okay, the white man came to Africa in disguise. He used the missionaries. Okay, the missionaries preached the gospel. So many people converted, and when they converted, remember, if you follow all the values of Christianity, for those who have studied Christianity too, you are not supposed to like kill. There are so many things. Okay, and so when the hare was told, "Make your step, I make mine." Remember, it is like the way they welcomed him. Make your step, we welcomed him, we give you food, we give you water, and then eventually what do? You throw us out. Now that is the chameleon throwing out the hair, and that is exactly what happened in Kutula colony. Okay, the ninth point. The king bluntly tells him, mhm, he does not want white people in Kutula colony. The king bluntly tells him, comma, the king bluntly tells him he does not want him in Kutula colony. Sorry, county. It's not even colony county. Colony county, both of them work. Mhm. Now, what does that do to the governor? He's worried. Why is he worried? Because remember of the matriarchal thing, he does not want Princess Angoi to inherit the leadership. Okay, he does not want a woman on that chair because, in other words, it is so easy. You cannot control a woman. But it is quite ironical. Was he even controlling the king himself? So I wonder what Governor Mackay was trying to say. Okay, so the king, first of all, admits that he is aware of the uprising. Secondly, he tells the governor, sorry, that we do not want you people in our country. Just go away. Go back to where you came from. Okay. We are going to see that the king believed that Africans should share amongst themselves, not with people from outside, amongst themselves. Okay, the resources of the land, and that was a very good African value that still exists until today. People are supposed to help each other. If one doesn't have, however, what did westernization do? It came and capitalized people's minds. And that is why when somebody has and cannot even assist another person who does not have. Okay. Now, and the 10th point, a stylistic device is brought out. Okay. It is ironical that the king has a problem, okay, with the settlers staying in Kutula colony, but wants his daughter. So that is a point. The king, it is ironical that the king has a problem with the white settlers, but wants his daughter, okay, to learn the ways of the white man. Mhm. It is ironical that the king has a problem with the settlers staying in Kutula colony, but wants his daughter to learn the ways of the white man. In other words, King Kutula the 15th, actually, like that's a very straight way of defining the moment as he put his leg into his mouth. Yeah, like we don't expect that from him. This is your enemy. You don't give your daughter to your enemy. However, this is what he wants. He wants Princess Sangoi to learn the ways of the white man. Why? Because he thinks that industrialization was going to help them. He thinks that education was good for them, which it was, okay? However, if this is a person who came to your home, you welcomed him, he drew you out, we do not expect that he was going to be any good to you particularly. Okay. So when the king says that he's going to make sure that his daughter gets the good values from the white man, we are left perplexed. It is ironical. We don't expect that from him. The 11th point, the bishop is convinced that that is manager. The bishop is convinced that Sangoi's education will only confuse her. The bishop is convinced that Sangoi's education will only confuse her. Okay? So why does he say that? Why say that in the first place? Now, when he says that Sangoi's education will only confuse her, he believes that she's so deep into religion. Yeah, she's going to go abroad. Okay, she's going to study. Okay, but she will be so buried in books that she will forget or not know what is happening in her own country. Okay, so the bishop's plan is to unleash Sangoi against her simple folk upon the completion of her education for their benefit. That is the bishop's plan. However, remember these are natives. They will be hungry, they will be needing land, and then you come with all you have learned about education. It would seem absurd. According to manager, it will not even make sense to them, okay? And so they will tend to reject her. And this is exactly what he's looking for, okay? Now, that marks the end of the prologue, a very brief, nice section, and a small section that introduces you to the story itself. Okay, and so when you are introduced to all that, you are able to understand now what is happening. Because after the prologue, if you look at your novels, the next thing that happens is that they give you what do they give you? They give you a character list. That is it. Yeah, they tell you in this book we will have this and that character. Okay, you'll meet Tamina, you'll meet Lulu, Benzero, and Bengo, and then Melo, sorry, and the rest. Okay, now I have three questions here with me, which I have answered, and I would like you to listen to them, see whether you'd answer the same way. Now, the first question is, what does Thorn mean by the statement, Africa supports, nay mountains, the empire? No, nay mountains? Oh, no, nay, sorry. What does Thorn mean by the statement, Africa supports, the nay, 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 maintains the empire? That is in page 4. Okay, that is a quote, a direct quote from Don Mackay. What does Don mean by the statement, Africa supports, nay, maintains the empire? Page 4. This is the answer. He means this: Africa's resources maintain the British Empire, and that should be upheld. And that should be upheld. Okay, that is my approach. Remember, everybody has his or her own level of madness. So if you have a different answer, make sure that you communicate that with us. Okay, so Africa supports, nay, maintains the empire. In other words, Africa, Africa's resources maintain the British Empire, and that should be upheld. Exactly what Don was trying to say. So I'm going to read them out again, then move on to my second question. What does Don mean by the statement, Africa supports, maintains the empire, page 4? The answer, Africa resources maintain Africa's resources maintain the British Empire, and that should be upheld. Okay, I hope you have gotten it. Then we move on to the second question. Make her a slave, ellipsis. Make her a slave, it's a quote, ellipsis. Again, revisit history, comma, manager, ellipsis, revisit, ellipsis, end of quote. Let me begin the quote again. Make her a slave, ellipsis, again, ellipsis. So again is a word, not that you continue writing the ellipsis again. So make her a slave, ellipsis, again, ellipsis, revisit history, comma, manager, revisit, end of quote, page 5. Now, what is your understanding of this statement? What is your understanding of this statement? Question mark. Now, this is the answer. First, listen to it. The governor would like manager to use religion, the first tool that was initially used by the white man to enslave Africans. The governor would like manager, make her a slave. Who? Those Africans. Make Africa a slave, yeah? Again, revisit history. Go back to history. How did we enslave Africans initially? Manager. Revisit page 5, okay? Now the answer, the governor would like manager to use religion, comma, the first tool that was initially used by the white man to enslave Africans. The governor would like manager to use religion, the first tool that was initially used by the white man to enslave Africans. And the third question. In what ways do the native exhibit infernal allegiance to their leaders? The third question. In what ways do the natives exhibit infernal, INFERNAL, allegiance to their leaders? How do they show their allegiance? The answer, they honor, recognize them, and do everything to make sure their wishes were fulfilled, no matter how absurd they seemed. Okay? They honor, recognize them, and would do everything to make sure their wishes were fulfilled, no matter how absurd they seemed. Okay? So they honor, recognize, and would do everything to make sure their wishes were fulfilled, no matter how absurd they seemed. Now, I'm going to use the last 9 minutes remaining to make sure that I take you through again through the prologue, the questions, and comments. In everything you do, always review what you have learned, okay? So I'm going to review like what is brought out in the prologue, okay? What do we understand from this prologue? What was the writer trying to tell us, okay? A commentary, and this one is still in your the pamphlets that I sent you, the PDFs, okay, that I sent to you. So Baja says she hasn't gotten the third question, so I'm going to repeat it once more. Baja and the rest who never got it. In what ways do natives exhibit? In what ways do the natives exhibit infernal, even quote and quote it, yeah, because this is our vocabulary, infernal allegiance. Infernal, I spelled it, allegiance. It's like what, an agreement, or let's say royalty, yeah, allegiance to their leaders. Okay, so I'm going to be quite fast. To their leaders, they honor, comma, recognize them, and would do everything to make sure their wishes were fulfilled, no matter how absurd they seemed. How do they show their infernal allegiance? That's the natives, to their leaders. And remember, these are their leaders. So when the key word is used, they are, it is the African leaders, not the white settlers. The white settlers were not even regarded as their leaders at all at any point. Okay? So they honor, recognize them, and would do everything to make sure their wishes were fulfilled, no matter how absurd they seemed. Okay. Now, having said that, I move to the commentary, and my time is running quite fast. 7 minutes. So I'm going to look at them. There are around, let's say, 10 of them. Now, the first one is that life in Kutula is captured during the colonial era. That is one thing I got from the prologue, okay? Life in Kutula is captured during the colonial era. That is, especially from the oppressive colonialists, okay? Then you have the second point I got was Governor Don Mackay disagrees with the colonial officer in London for abolishing the whip. That is also something I got from the prologue. The second one, the governor disagrees with the colonial officer in London for abolishing the whip. Okay. Then the third one that I got from the prologue is a conflict has ensued between Africans and their white masters over land, leadership, and resources. A conflict has ensued between Africans. Just write them in quotes, and short notes. You will look at the PDF later. A conflict has ensued between Africans and their white masters over land, leadership, and resources. Okay. The fourth one, King Kutula the 15th. King Kutula the 15th, that Africans, somebody's microphone needs to be switched off. Unmute, we can hear you at the noise. Yes, Anab, thank you. So, the fourth one, King Kutula the 15th insists that Africans must share what comes from their land. Okay? King Kutula the 15th insists that Africans must share what comes from their land, that is, share amongst themselves, not with the white settlers. The fifth one that I got is that interracial conflict and revolution is demonstrated by the escalating violence. Okay? Interracial conflict and revolution is demonstrated by the escalating violence. So, Black people have united and they are fighting the white man and they are evicting him, they are beating him up, and they are molesting the children, which was quite bad. Yeah. Then the sixth one, conflict of attitude. What the whites consider themselves civilized, democratic, and modernized. That is attitude. The white people kept this. Let me see what your comments. I can see there are three of them. Give me a minute. Now we have white people. Yes. Okay. So white people have a conflict of attitude. They have a very bad attitude towards Africans. That is one thing that we should know. Okay. And this one is something I got. And when you're discussing conflict, please discuss conflict of attitude. Derive exactly the attitude that is brought out from not just Don Mackay, not just Meninger. Go to Goldstein and Robert, discuss them all and look at their attitude towards Africans. Okay. The seventh one, there is irony, Both Don and Manager refer the natives as primitive. That is irony. But it is quite weird, as much as they are referring to them as primitive and themselves as civilized. Why can't they get the proverbs that these Africans are using? If they are so educated, then they would have understood the proverbs quite fast, okay? So who was primitive? I believe the white settlers, that is Don Mackay and Menninger, were the ones who were indeed primitive. That is ironical. It is also contrast in its own light. The eighth one, two more remaining. It is also ironical that British claimed to have brought civilization, yet their main motives was to rob Africans. Another one that is under figurative language. It is ironical that the British claimed to have brought civilization, okay, yet their main motives were to rob Africans. That is something I got, okay. Now, 2 minutes remaining. The use of proverbs portrays the king as assertive, brings in a character trait. We also see a few character traits of Don Mackay from the prologue. He is abusive, oppressive, authoritarian, and selfish. Okay. Manager. That one is one person we really need to focus on. He's brought out as a hypocrite, insincere. Imagine he's a man of growth, but what comes from his mouth is disgusting. Let me use that word because we are told this. He propagates oppression, imperialism, deceit, and opportunism. Okay, he tells Don Mackay, "Don't worry. You know what? Even if Sangoi goes abroad, we are going to use that against her and her people." Okay. Then the princess, last but not least, she's ambitious, obedient, trusting, and loyal. Okay. Now, 1 minute remaining, and I'm going to send my email. Please check it after the class is over in our page, in our group. I'm going to send my email. I would like you to write a summary as your assignment. Send it to my email, summary of movement one. And then once we do that and I see how well you have done it, I'll give you more questions, and this will be on oral literature. Okay, so we will not just be doing this from inheritance, we'll also be doing oral literature as our assignment, and we'll be discussing at least twice a week on oral literature. Having said that, I believe the lesson is over. Have a blessed day. Thank you. Mr. Kiring?
Bahaja is saying that he has not gotten that question.
Okay, so Baja, the third question, I will send it to you. I'll type it to you and send it to you through WhatsApp. Okay, yes, Abdimalik, the meaning of sanctimonious, it's hypocrite. A hypocrite and an insincere person. That word is going. Another question. Abdimalik, do I repeat? Oh, thank you. Thank you too. Okay. Mm-hmm. Looks
Any
like
other
the
you can put your questions or you can ask your questions by raising up your hand.
have today. Are they complaining of not hearing today?
Okay, okay. Excellent.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Yes, Fatuma Mohammed, you have been very quiet, and that is unlike you. You need to start asking as many questions as possible.
I will ask, madam, but not now.
Not now. Yes, process as many as you can, okay? Yes, there is one question that I'll send to the group again. It was asked by the Form 3s, and I think the Form 4s should also have it, okay? Mm-hmm. Amina, I do not understand what you asked. Please ask again. I do not like abbreviations. I do not even understand what is that. So please rephrase that question.
Who is that?
Amina asked, okay, this one has been sent privately.
Okay.
Oh, I'm going to SWB. Confusing for me. Yes. Yeah, I'm going to send the questions. Thank you, Amina. Thank you. Okay. So it seems like there's no, oh, before we leave, because it looks like our time has been extended. Thank you, Mr. Kioi. Before we leave, I want to tell who? Ahmed. Ahmed, you sit and stare at me. That is something I do not want. I want you to be having a book. If he's here, I don't know whether he's in the group. Ahmed, please correct that. Anyone else? Yes, he's not even having a book. I can see him now. He's here. Where is your book, Ahmed? Show me the book.
Show us your book, Ahmed.
Thank you. Yes, finally, that one has proved he is around. Any other person with a question? Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Kioi, for the time.
Abdullahi, where is your book? I cannot see your book. No, okay, thank you.
Yes, thank you so much.
So we can add the lesson. Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.